URC 2024-2025 is going to have a new champion this weekend, folks, as the Bulls head up to Dublin to take on Leinster. One of these sides will lift the trophy for the first time in their history, but let's take a look back at the regular season to see where the strength was in this year's competition, which region had the most wins, where were the away results coming from, who was struggling against who. We'll go through them, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Now, for mine, the South Africans are the strongest Shield or conference or regional group this year because they amassed 45 wins, which even if you combine the Scots and the Italians, who I've separated for the purposes of this video, they don't catch those numbers. So the South Africans have done pretty well this year. 3 of their 4 sides made the playoffs. The Lions kind of could have made it, but ended up limping through the end of the season and falling short. But yeah, 3 out of the 4 sides in the playoffs, 1 in the final. It's been a pretty good year for the South African sides, but what has impressed me most about the South African sides this year is their ability to win on the road. For as long as Super Rugby was a thing and the South African sides were there, and since the inception of the URC, also with the addition of the Champions Cup, the South African sides on the road have traditionally struggled. It's never been an area of strength. Really, fortress at home, not quite got the same punch on the road, has been a thing, but not so much this year. If we put the South African numbers on the board, you can compare them. Their home wins and away wins plus home losses and away losses against the other groups in this URC competition. You can see they got a positive record against every other region. So they went 10 wins, 6 losses against the Irish, including 3 away wins. They won against Connacht and Munster, that was the Bulls, and then the Sharks also beat Ulster, which is certainly up. They got a positive record against the Welsh side, so they dominated, 12 wins, 4 losses. They got a positive record against the Italians, they went 6-2, and they got a positive record against the Scots, where they went 5-3. Also, there was at least, I think, 2 away wins up in Scotland as well, which is never an easy place to go. So 13 of these South African wins this season come outside of South Africa, which, as I said, has never traditionally been an area of strength. But that means of all these regional groups, the South African sides had the best record on the road, excluding kind of inter-South African derby matches. So I'm not looking at away wins being against your other South African rivals, just away wins outside of South Africa. The South African teams were genuinely very strong. So that part is very encouraging. For the Irish, they had 38 wins this season amongst the 4 of them, but there's a real disparity between Leinster, who were flying the flag up the top, Munster, who were a bit of Jekyll and Hyde, and then Ulster and Connacht kind of struggled. Both Ulster and Connacht, maybe if they'd had a good run towards the end of the season, could have made the playoffs, but it didn't happen for either of them. So, especially in Ulster's case, who traditionally, a pretty strong playoff side, they've kind of fallen off this year, and that's dropped the overall number of wins for the Irish side. So 6-10 against the South African sides, like I just mentioned, and only the 1 win for Irish sides in South Africa. That was Leinster against the Sharks. Leinster also lost to the Bulls, which is an interesting one ahead of this week's upcoming final, albeit not with Leinster's strongest side sent down there. But yeah, not picking up the wins in South Africa. Dominant over the Welsh sides, though, 12-4. I don't want to say dominant over the Italian sides at 5-3, because that's almost an even split. I think Ulster lost both their games to Italian sides, and Munster lost as well to Zebre. So it's a positive record, but it's not what you would call domination. And then also a negative record against the Scottish sides, with just Leinster picking up both wins against their Scottish rivals, excluding the playoff games. I'm just talking regular season. And Ulster also picking up a win in round 1. The other 5 matches, both the Munsters, both the Connachts, lost, plus 1 of Ulster's. So, yeah, interesting kind of shift in fortunes for the Irish sides. But as I said, Leinster are really flying that flag because they have been the best side in the URC just with kind of pure wins and losses. It's elsewhere that the depth seems to be struggling a bit. Speaking of struggling, the Welsh sides picked up 25 wins amongst the 4 of them. The Dragons don't help the case here because they only got 1 win the entire season, and that was against the Welsh side. So, yeah, Wales's numbers don't compare well to the other regions. I mean, 4-12 against the Box, the South African sides, 4-12 against the Irish sides, and no away wins in Ireland. They at least got 1 away win in South Africa. That was the Scarlets over the Lions. 3-4 plus a draw means a negative result against the Italian sides, and then 3-5 against the Scottish sides, also negative. So really, there's 2 away wins the entire season outside of Wales. The Ospreys beat Glasgow and the Scarlets beat the Lions. That's it. Really hard. I think there was a draw on the road as well. Was it the Scarlets against Zebre? But yeah, wins on the road outside of Wales, very, very hard to come by for the Welsh sides in this year's URC. Scottish sides, obviously both their sides made the playoffs, so 19 wins and 2 in the playoffs is a pretty good return. Not as easy for them this year because they play the Italian sides more than everybody else. But Zebre upped their game this year, so it wasn't quite as emphatic there. Still a negative record against the South African sides at 3-5. They might have liked to be a bit stronger at home, the Scottish sides there, but it's not too far off. Parity, 5-3, a positive record against the Irish sides, 5-3, a positive record against the Welsh sides, but maybe not as emphatic as it could have been. And then a positive record over the Italian sides as well. 5 losses at home, though. I always think of Scotland, just both those grounds, the Hive and the stadium in Glasgow, just kind of being fortresses, but yeah, not as much this year. And then the Italian sides, you've kind of already seen what their numbers are like because we've already compared them to everybody else, but on their own, the most interesting one for them, I guess, is Zebre's rise in form. Like, they picked up 14 wins, and Zebre had, 5 of them? So that's something encouraging, because Zebre in previous years were just like the Dragons. They'd pick up maybe a win, maybe go winless, but they got away wins against every other region. There was a win in South Africa, a win in Wales, win in Ireland, and a win in Scotland. So not everybody can say that, certainly this year. But none of the sides, or neither of the sides, made the playoffs, which is not ideal. But Zebre being a bit stronger hopefully means depth in Italian rugby is certainly getting a bit stronger. But there you go, folks. Something to whet the appetite ahead of this weekend's URC final. How have you guys seen this year's competition? Are you impressed with how well the Springbok sides, the South African sides have done on the road? Can you see Ulster and Connacht turning their fortunes around to be back in the playoffs next year? How about the Welsh sides? Obviously, there's been a lot of off-the-field turmoil with what's going on there, but we've been saying that for a number of years now. And the Scots, both their sides made the playoffs, but won't have a champion this year. You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.